Welcome to the GameChanger 00100 show. I'm your host, GameChanger. Okay, so I've talked about hookup culture before. I talked about the negative effects of it, why it exists. Of course, there's obvious positive effects of it that I really don't need to get into. But this one, I'm going to get a modern woman's perspective, but not just a modern woman. I want to show y'all something. This is an attractive modern woman, which means that her opinion on such matters is significantly more important than a non attractive woman's opinion. Simply put, we care what they think more because we want to hook up with them more. But not only that, I want to give you a perception of how it changed over the years and decades since I was this young lady's age. So, fair use, fair use.
I just feel like a lot of people in today's society kind of use sex to fill a void. And it's not to say like women can't enjoy sex. I just think that we've kind of been lied to believe that like as women, there's power in just sleeping with a million people, or there's power in being able to hook up with someone and be physically intimate and shut off the spiritual and emotional side of yourself just to gain physical pleasure.
Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. Yes and no. There isn't necessarily power in sleeping with a million people. There is power in having a million people wanting to sleep with you and you determining who gets to do that. There is that particular power. Now, that power exists whether an attractive woman rather is married or single. She still determines that. But when you have hookup culture, it means that the majority of people are single, which means that the majority, or a large portion, I should say, which means that a large portion of the people are in your inbox. Like if this was the 50s and you're 25, then there wouldn't be a bunch of guys that are 18 to 80 that are still single looking for you. Most guys would be married and you would be like in a desperate search looking for a non-married man that is willing to get with somebody that is by those standards old. So there is a certain amount of, I don't know if I'd call it power, but there's definitely a certain amount of, there's a feeling of power in having that many suitors actively seeking what you have.
I think that that's a lie that we've been told. What's good, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Oh, there's a siren. So today's video is going to be on a topic that I've honestly been avoiding for so long. I don't know. I think that like as young women, especially like in America and just like in the Western world, we've just been lied to. I think that our media exposes us to a lot of things that are not actually good for our psyche and has normalized a lot of things that I think honestly have caused a lot of harm emotionally to young women. For me personally, I have found on my journey as I've just become more conscious and aware of what's good for me, what's not, how can I become, my dream person, build my dream life, have like healthy amazing relationships. There's a lot of things that I feel like I've been taught that I've really, really, really had to do the work to unlearn and to understand. And I really, really want to talk about this. I talk about this obviously a lot on my channel in different avenues, but I think when it comes to dating, it's something that for me has been a little bit of a rougher journey. And I just want to share with you guys some things that I have learned in my 25 years of living when it comes to dating, love life.
Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. Everybody thinks that they have it bad. The fact that she thinks that she has it bad, and she has it bad in a different way than a lot of women have it, particularly the less attractive women have it. She has it bad in a different way, but everybody believes that they have it bad, sweetie.
Hookup culture, sex, just all the things that I've been learning. And I'm going to say I have been putting off making this video for so long just because I just don't want to come across as judgmental or like I'm on a high horse or I know more than anybody, because I definitely don't. Like all my videos, I will always tell you guys, I'm just sharing what I'm learning as I go and the things that I believe to be true about the world are just a reflection of my own personal reality. So maybe some of this will align with you and resonate. Maybe it won't. And that's okay. You guys can feel free to share your thoughts and what you disagree with, what you agree with in the comments down below. I love having like healthy discussions about these things. So that's like my little disclaimer. I don't know why I'm so nervous making this video. Okay. I think that honestly, hookup culture is extremely damaging to the spirit. Like, if I could go back in time and tell my younger self one thing, it would be, bitch, do not participate in hookup culture. It's not for you. I will tell you guys from personal experience, for the longest time, I thought hookup culture was just the norm. I just thought it was like everybody's doing this. This is what you do. Like, if you are like, yeah, there's some people who wait till marriage and maybe are a little bit like,
Okay. She's young, she's 25, which means that from, let's just say 18 to 24, she thought that that was the norm. If a lot of people, a large percentage of the people around you also thought that that's the norm, then it is the norm. Now, it may not be the biological norm, but society has constructed this as a normal thing to do. Now, this video is the pros and cons of hookup culture, or as it pertains to modern women. So I'm going to talk about how this is a con for the men. It is extremely misleading, and this is from a guy in his 40s. It is extremely misleading for women to slowly come to this realization. So say you're a guy and you start your sexual journey at the age of 15, right? Or actually, let's just say 14. And you're with it, they're with it because they've been conditioned to be with it. And there's just this bombardment. There's just, okay, I'm young and let me get it while the getting is good. I get the getting till the getting gets got. And for about 10 years, everything is going great. And it's like, hey, player for life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then comes the taper down. And that's when women start to realize that it's not really a benefit for them in it, so to speak. It goes against what they actually want out of life. So they slowly start to come out of the trance that society puts them in. That's what she's describing. But you're still playing because you enjoyed it so much for the last 10 years. But now you notice that it's becoming less and less and less frequent. It's becoming a little bit harder and harder and harder as time goes on. So you don't really think commitment because the women aren't thinking commitment and the getting is so good. Many guys find themselves unprepared for the taper down that happens afterwards.
like more sensitive and sex is just a bigger deal to them. But for so long, I was like, oh, sex is just something that should be celebrated, right? Like we are as
It
women, I
is.
think now in like modern times, we're so sexually liberated and we celebrate that. And I think that's such an amazing thing. Like you guys, if you go on my Instagram, y'all know I think women should wear what they want. I feel like every woman should be doing what the fuck they want to be doing with their body. Let me just preface this by saying that. But I will say one thing that I wish that I could go back in time and tell my younger self is that hookup culture is not good for you. It's actually extremely damaging to your psyche, to your mental, to your spiritual well being.
Women do what they want with their bodies, but society is heavily influencing women to do what society wants them to do with it. And what society wants women to do with their body is to entice men to spend. And also not really settle down so that they may become producer consumers and spend themselves. That's what society wants y'all to do with it. There's nothing worse from a society perspective than a woman who marries at 20 and spends the rest of her life clipping coupons and, making sure the kids get a fair allowance. There's no money in that. Who's going to buy the red bottoms at that point? And, what guy is going to go out and spend an extra $50,000 on a shinier automobile if he married at 20? So there isn't money circulating in this in this paradigm. So hookup culture works for society, or for the capitalist society. So they give you the option to do what you want, but they influence what you want to do. They sold you on a lifestyle through Sex in the City and all this other stuff.
As a woman, and I can't imagine this is probably the same for men, even though I think it's a little bit different. I think for most people, hookup culture is just, I don't know why it's so normalized. Like, I don't think that it's good for us. If you want to have a healthy dating life and attract like really true, deep, meaningful relationships into your life, I think one of the number one things that you can do, and if you just want to have a really healthy and loving relationship with yourself, I think one of the number one things that you could be doing is to be just a little bit more selective about who you allow into your space and who you allow into your body, like who you allow into your physical. Like, when you think about it, we are such divine beings. And I know that sounds like very woo woo to some people and like annoying, but like it's true. Like, we are all divine beings. And we, like, if you're very spiritually in
Okay, she talking crazy now. I agree with what she said, but I think that what she really means is change your selection criteria. Because you were already, even in hookup culture, women are going to be selective. However, the men that they select for hooking up is somewhat different than the men that they select for relationships. I think that's actually what she means. I don't think that she means be more selective. I think that she simply means change her selection criteria.
tune with yourself, if you're very conscious, you may recognize that, like, even just some people being in your space, in your energy field, like when you're hanging out with people, like you can sense and feel that other person's energy, right? And so
No, you can't. No, you can't. That's hippie talk. And no shade to all you hippie people out there, but I think that stuff like that is really, you're, I mean, of course you're taking physical cues from a person. Like babies do that. Babies look at a human being and say, oh, this person is mean, but what they're really doing is they're taking physical cues from them. They see them and but okay, put it like this. Can you feel a person's aura blindfolded? So if you were blindfolded and a guy walks in, could you tell if he was a WS just by feeling his aura? Could you tell if he's smart? Could you even tell if he's tall? Could you tell if he's an angry person, a happy person, an introvert, or extrovert? Like, come on now. Let's okay. Those lips though.
I think the more that I've learned that on my journey, the more I've recognized that, like, okay, who I'm spending time with, just period, friends, family. This is it's important to kind of recognize like how people are affecting my energy, but also it's like having people in my space that affects how I feel as well. Like, I don't just allow anybody to just come into my apartment and come hang out. And so as a woman, as I've started to get older, I've started to realize, like, why would I not have that same selectiveness with who I am intimate with? Like, when you
That's strange. You're saying that you want to up the criteria to who you are intimate with to people that you would at least let into your apartment. But I'm assuming that some of the times you were intimate with people, you let them into your apartment. So that's a little strange.
really, really, truly think about it, being intimate with someone in any way is like one of the most like that's one of the most like intense ways that you can connect with somebody. I think
I
that if
agree.
you allow the wrong person into your energy field, if you're intimate with the wrong person, or if you're just constantly being intimate with different people without actually really truly knowing them and feeling safe and comfortable with them, it can just really disrupt your system. I don't know. I just feel like the more you really fall in love with yourself, the more you kind of are just seeing your body as the temple that it is. And I think that as women, especially, this is my theory, okay? I think that in the Western world, sex has become so, so, so normalized because
It is normal.
men benefit from women thinking that we are liberated and free by just sleeping with anybody. And so it just makes
Okay. Now here she go with patriarchy blame. Men don't benefit from that crap. I mean, they benefit from it in the short term, but the plurality of men do not benefit from it, especially when they get to be around your age or maybe a little older, maybe about 10 years older. And that's because women they get jaded from it, but their head is blown up from, all the guys who are asking for a hookup because you've been hooking up. It's kind of like if you were that person that in the neighborhood that had a barbecue every week and it wasn't bring your own barbecue. Like everybody, you just gave the neighborhood free barbecue and everybody showed up to the house. Then people will get used to it. People will come all the time. And then you just get tired of so many people coming for free barbecue that you just raise the price to an extraordinary amount. And then, well, that's probably not the best analogy, but y'all get where I'm going. Y'all get where I'm going with this. The inevitable result of hookup culture is to the benefit of the unattractive women. That's the inevitable result of it. And that's because men tend to hook up with their physical inferiors. If a guy is a 9, he'd hook up with a 7. A guy is a 7, he hook up with a 5, and so on and so forth. Women, on the other hand, that is the benefit that they receive. Now, the problem with mixing hookup culture with regular relationships. I mean, hookup culture, okay. If every person who was looking for hookups wore like a bracelet that said hookup, man and woman, then that's one thing. And you could also see this bracelet digitally, then that's one thing. That's one thing. But what it does is it clouds everything for the people who are not looking for a hookup. It just confuses the market, something ridiculous.
makes it easier for men to access women and take advantage of women. And it's not to say like women can't enjoy sex. I just think that we've kind of been lied to believe that like as women, there's power in just
It's not men doing this to you. It's not men doing this to you. Hookup culture, there's pros and cons. One major pro is sexual variety. You get to, provided that you're talented, someone talented, you get to have sex with a multitude of different women. But the con to that is that you're working for each one. So take a guy who is in a stable relationship. He put in work to get to the sexual point in that relationship. But now that he's in it, he doesn't have to put in that type of work anymore. There eventually will come a point of stability in a relationship, or as stable as a relationship can be with modern women. Whereas hookup culture, you're just repeating the hunting process over and over and over and over and over again. Men don't benefit directly from that at all. And the men in power really don't have anything to gain. No, it's society at large. It's the people that sells you stuff that benefits from hookup culture.
sleeping with a million people, or there's power in being able to hook up with someone and be physically intimate and shut off the spiritual and emotional side of yourself just to gain physical pleasure. I think that that's a lie that we've been told, especially like in the Black community. Like when you look at like our rappers and just the women
She's
who
black.
they make famous, I think that Black women tend to just be hypersexualized so much more than white women in the media. I just feel like a lot of people in today's society kind of use sex to fill a void. And so a lot of people go and seek this like lustful, like getting
Okay. Didn't know she was black. But hey, live and learn. Um, is Black women more sexualized, or are Black women more sexualized than other groups of women? Hmm, that's debatable, but I'm going to go ahead and say yes and no. Black women sexualize themselves more than other groups of women. However, the men or society at large sexualize other groups of women more than Black women. And that's because, quite frankly, and this is going to sound harsh. This is going to sound harsh. It's going to sound, I don't want to say it, but I got to say it. That's because other groups of women are, I don't want to say more sexy, but they are more of a sexual interest than Black women. Yeah. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. They're more of a sexual interest than Black women. So when you make a movie or something like that, you have the white woman who is the main chick, and she's the one that you want to see get naked more than anything. It's rarely the case for Black women, and that's something that they have control over, but they choose not to exercise that control. And by control over, I mean, you know, change of weight, change of attitude, change of hair. You know, there's a lot of things that they can do, but even then, they probably would fall into a Claire Huxtable category. And, maybe that's better for their image. But there's always going to be the sexy reds and stuff out there. This is not society telling them to do this. This is just them doing this. This is just, I mean, there's always going to be the Instagram, the OnlyFans, or even just the street corners. There's always going to be these things, these entities that allows an individual to sexualize themselves, which Black women do to an abundance. And maybe they overdo it to an abundance to where, society don't really see a need or a market that they haven't already fulfilled in sexualizing them. Just my thoughts. Oh, and if you don't believe me, who's young? Like, stop and think about it. Who's the PYT out there right now that society, that's a Black woman, that society has decided to sexualize? Who's young? Who's that PYT? I mean, Chloe Bailey is pretty young, right? But she sexualizes herself. So and Haley Bailey is younger, and she's not really sexualized. So yeah, it's yeah, that's that.
Again, getting their I think there's a huge difference between getting your physical needs met with just anybody or just someone who kind of fits the bill, whatever, versus like actually participating in sex in like a loving way with someone that you actually feel emotionally safe with, that has actually given you the things that you need to just feel emotionally connected with them. Like, I think there's a huge difference between those two things. So, like, again, I don't think that sex is just like a bad thing. I don't think that you have to like wait till marriage or whatever. Like, I just think that at the end of the day, if you're participating in hookup culture in a way that's just like, oh, I need to get my physical needs met, then 9 times out of 10, it's because there's some kind of void that you are not filling with yourself emotionally. You don't know how to be alone. You don't know how to, you feel like you get validation from sex. You feel like you
Everybody has a void. That's why we seek other people. That's why we fill it in healthy ways. We fill it with relationships. We fill it with children. We fill it in healthy ways. Society understands that this void exists, and they want you to fill it with Prada and Gucci and Birkin, as many women do. Sprinkle, sprinkle.
you get validation from the opposite sex and just getting attention. This happens with both men and women. And I think that honestly it's more harmful for women than it even is for men, because at the end of the day, women were wired differently. Like we have
True.
hormones that literally make it so that we are more likely to get emotionally connected and attached to someone during sex. Like our bodies, your womb is sensitive. Like your womb literally is like a portal into your spiritual self.
Okay.
And so when you're just
Crazy talk.
allowing someone else into your body, at the end of the day, it's going to throw you off. It can throw you off physically. Like women, when you think about it, when women are participating in hookup culture, they're just more likely to have infections or whatever. Like women are the receivers of a man's energy. When you think about biology
Okay.
and just how things work in these like heterosexual relationships, women have more physical issues and just more sensitivities when it comes to sex. It's a lot deeper than just, oh, how do you feel emotionally? It's a lot deeper than how do you feel spiritually.
Speaking of a lot deeper, yeah. Ha. All right.
It's also a physical thing as well. We can also recognize that, like, as women, the more you are participating in hookup culture, the more issues you tend to have with the opposite sex. I can bet you if you're participating in hookup culture that you trust men less, because usually what happens for a lot of women is they sleep with men too early. They sleep with them when they think that like, oh, if I sleep with
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be hookup culture if you made them wait, but you can't really blame men at that point. You can't. It is. I know women do, but when you are wrong to participate in hookup culture and then blame men for participating in the same culture that you are participating in. You see, once again, the problem with it is that okay, you are a woman and you just, you hook up from time to time with guys that you feel that you want to hook up with, and then out of nowhere you just pick this guy and say, hey, I want something more than just casual hook. It's like, well, how would he know that? He's participating in the same game that you're participating in. So I mean, you got the bracelet, you got the hookup bracelet, and so does he. So that's when things start to get complicated. But it's not the man's fault. He's going along with the culture that you are going along with.
with him, then maybe he'll give me this, or maybe he'll treat me this way. Then we'll start going on dates. Then he'll start giving me the things that I want. And even if you're convincing yourself that you don't even want those things, a lot of times for women, again, because of the way that we're wired, sex is going to release oxytocin. It's going to release these things that makes you feel more emotionally connected with someone than you actually are. For like a lot of women, it's not like, oh, I'm just hooking up with everybody, whatever. It's usually just like one or two guys, or like you're like in a situationship, right? And you're wondering, why is he not actually treating me the way that I want him to treat me? Why does he not actually want to be in a relationship? Why does he only seem to, respect me to a certain extent? You question these things, but you don't understand that the way men are wired is different than the way women are wired. Men are more, when you think about feminine and masculine energy, men are much more of this earth. They're much more of the physical realm. They're much more of just physical. When you think about the physical 3D reality, men are much more rooted in that reality. Women may notice just over cultures, over history, right? When you look at different civilizations, women are typically the ones who are more connected to a higher power. They're more connected. They're like the witches, right? When you think about women and our just the feminine and
So, women are witches. Yep, she said it, not me.
energy, it's a lot more spiritually in tune. And so when you think about this, right? When you think about the relationship between men and women, men are more like they will have sex with almost anything, right? We know this. And so when you think about it, if you, again, as a woman, sleep with a man because he bought you a drink that night or because he took you on one date, that's signaling in a man's brain that that's all he needs to do in order to gain you, because you as a woman are the prize and men are wired to chase, right? They want to receive the prize. And honestly, at the end of the day, I know people don't want to hear it. It sounds really old school, whatever, but like the ultimate prize for men is sex. Like it's your body. Like that's just the truth. At the end of the day, back in the day, men would have to go and slay dragons and go fight, they'd have to go like go to someone's family and talk to them and present documents. And like other cultures still to this day, it's a way, 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 way bigger deal for a man to even be able to spend time with a woman alone. But in the West, we have normalized these things so much to a point where men can access women and can get things so much easier. So of course, when we look at the dating market and we look at the fact that like, oh, why don't men treat women the same anymore? Why don't men like women as much as they used to, as much as they used to? It's because women are more available to men. Like at the end of the day, women control the dating market. If all women decided today that they're not going to participate in hookup culture, I can.
Okay, so she's not really talking about improving, being better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. She's just talking about demanding more. She's still talking about being in hookup culture. It's just like, wait a minute, they used to slay dragons for this good. He's gonna have to do more than buy me a drink, because before it seemed as if she was just talking about changing the criteria and making sure she had a better connection to the guy, which you can do over a drink. You can say, you know something, I had a drink with this guy and my connection with him is really strong because I can feel his energy. Didn't you say you could feel energies? So why don't you just go around into a crowd of men, and whoever has the best energy, let them smash. Like, come on now. So you're talking about, okay, you just want him to do more so you could feel like what you are doing is more valuable. Trust me, in some way, shape, or form, they all come to this conclusion after a while of participating in hookup culture. Some of them go the sprinkle route. Some of them they just become more demanding, and that's because they start to get a sense at a young age. They start to get a sense of supply and demand, and once their inbox start filling up, and trust me, the internet did accelerate this process greatly. Their inbox start filling up, then they start filling themselves, and then they say, you know something, I am going to ask for more. Now they don't know what currency. Really, they just start asking for more, but the only thing that differs from woman to woman is the currency, meaning that women will start to say things like, I want a guy that's more handsome, or I want a guy that's more suave, or I want a guy with more money, or I want a guy that's taller. Whatever it is, they want more because they have to cull the herd of the now thousands of people who are in their inbox all the time. See, before it was a slower process for it to get to a woman's head, because she actually had to go out, get ready. She didn't have filters, and people didn't see pictures, they seen her. So she actually had to do herself up. And then guys would approach. So from her, I don't know, let's just say 3 to 7 guys that would approach a day, then her ego will slowly build up. But now she just takes 50 pictures, put up the best 3, and then watch the guys swarm in. So their ego gets inflated at a lot younger of an age, and with that, they start to see value in what these guys are looking for in hookup culture, and they start to put a premium on it. And right now, for her, she's probably trying to figure out what's her currency, but she do know that it's not drinks. She has realized that now.
Bet you all men would suddenly be treating women like queens. It would, like, the entire world would change. The world would probably be healed, honestly. Like
No, it wouldn't.
literally in other countries, when you look at like I think it's Korea, a lot of women are just not, they're like literally protesting the system
She's
by not
talking about the
sleeping with
4B
men and by
stuff.
not having babies. And that's literally like changing society there. Like things, it's like a big, big, big deal.
This woman is awful. She's an awful human being. Women, she's a witch. See, women don't care. Women like her don't care if the change that they make is good or bad. as long as they're the one making it. Once again, they don't really care if the change that they make is good or bad as long as they're the ones making it. So what she's talking about is there's this belief that because of the 4B movement, and that is women just, divesting, so to speak, Korean women just divesting. And there's a population decline for completely different reasons, but they attribute it to that because they want to feel empowered as being gatekeepers. But there's a severe population decline. And she's like, women are changing things. Is that a good thing? They're causing genocide. They're causing self-genocide. We're changing things. Oh, gosh. It is amazing when you think about, like, women in power and they just want it to have it. They don't want it to do anything in particular with it.
Because again, women at the end of the day, we hold so much power. We control how this entire world operates. But because of the patriarchy, we've been
How's there a patriarchy if you control if women controls how the world operates? Then that's not a patriarchy, sweetie.
like we've literally forgotten about our power, right? We've forgotten who it is that we are. We've forgotten our worth. Even when men participate in hookup culture, they're damaging themselves as well because then they don't trust women as much. They don't see the value in women as much. It's literally damaged the way that they see.
Notice how she never mentioned the value of men. Just saying. And why would a guy who's participating in hookup culture in a healthy way, meaning he's hooking up regularly, not trust women? He trusts women to do exactly what they do, and that's hook up.
See the opposite sex. We've been led to believe that like it's normal to hate each other, but we operate our best when we come together and when we actually love each other. Like the relationship
I agree
between
with
men,
that.
like we need each other at the end of the day. I think we've hypersexualized women. Men have mental health issues. They don't feel like they can even provide. Like men struggle with their own things, right? And this has created just this very, very, very unhealthy relationship between men and women. And I think that it's honestly purposeful. And I think that
I
it
agree with that.
damages, again, especially communities of color, way more than it damages other communities. A lot of people in the show.
I agree with that also. I don't like how people her age say stuff like people of color. They don't find it odd that we went from colored people to people of color, and they actually think that that's progress. Back in the day, they called us colored people, and then they tried to become more politically correct, more politically correct, more politically correct, and then they just went back. I mean, it just went full circle.
Generation who literally are struggling to love, they're struggling to trust other people, they're struggling with their own limiting beliefs, so they don't even know how to invite love into their own life. We think that we don't need each other, we're listening to too much Future, too much Drake, whatever, and then it gets to a point where it's like, oh, I'm whatever age, and then you realize like, oh, actually I'm lonely, or actually, maybe I do want love in my life. Like everybody does, but I think a lot of people have just become desensitized. And the media, the porn industry, just a lot of things have really, really, really done a number on our generation. I'm just saying this all to say that, like, if you find, like, I think one of the easiest fixes that you can make when it comes to all of this and just healing your relationship with love and attracting more love into your life is raising your standards. And
Okay, once again, I'm trying to get a feed on her because by raising her standards, what currency is she referring to? Once again, the only thing that's different between these chicks is the currency. It could be looks, it could be money, it could be standards, or it could be like, love, affection, commitment, things like that. But demanding more is what they're really after. When really, I mean, I guess that could be part of it, I guess, but really you could focus on yourself more too. Like, what can I do now other than hooking up in order to make myself someone that a person can fall in love with?
Not just allowing anybody into your space and not just allowing anybody into your energy
Space.
and your body, right? Again, just being selective about, just being more selective. I don't know. I think it really, really, really makes a huge difference. If you find yourself looking at your dating life or looking at the opposite sex and you're like, what's going on? Like, why are not like, why am I not being treated the way that I want to be treated? It's because your standards are low. It's because a man
It
bought you
is
a drink
not
and you think that
because
that's
it is not because your standards are low. Listen, oh my gosh, this is frustrating. You are the same woman. You are the same woman. That's it. You're not improved as a woman because you demand more. That's like saying, how come my house isn't selling? Oh, maybe I should raise the price of the rentals. So you're renting a house. Let's just say you're renting a house for $3,000 a month. And then one day you want to sell it. Well, if you want to sell it, then you probably are going to have to make some changes in order to do that, in order to be successful at that. You're going to, make some improvements that seem to be unnecessary when you were renting it. And then you put it on the market, not for rent, but for sale. You have changed the home to be something that is for sale. But you're just saying up the price of the rent to $4,000 and then somebody will buy it. That doesn't make sense. You're upping the price of sex hoping for a relationship.
enough to give him to sleep with him. And then that's what he thinks is like, oh, that's all she needs. If you really become aware of and conscious of your power and your worth, you'll recognize that there are men out there who would literally pay millions of dollars to buy you the
Oh,
nicest ring, to buy you the nicest house, to buy you. And it's not even about gaining things materially, but there are men who would put their lives on the line, who would literally wait a year if they need to in order to even access you in any kind of way physically. We can admit a lot of women, like, we want romance. We want to be, we want to be treated a certain way. Like a lot of women who participate in hookup culture.
so now she's talking about her currency. We want romance. We want to be treated a certain way, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now she's getting into what her currency is. But once again, this is what a man is paying to have sex with you. That's all you have done. You haven't really changed hookup culture. You just reduced the number of guys that you hooked up with because you increased the price of them hooking up with you. Because notice how when she says these guys slay dragons and blah 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 blah, that is for their box. That's not for them.
And they act like, oh, I don't care about the material things. I don't need a man to buy me this. I don't need a man to buy. I can take care of myself, whatever, whatever. Like, I'm not like these other girls. But at the end of the day, those are the same women who complain that they're not getting treated and wined and dined and romanced the way that they want to by men. But it's because, again, they've forgotten their own worth. And I honestly am of the belief that, like, if someone is even going so far as to sell their body for sex, at least they know how much they are worth
Ha!
compared to someone who's just giving it up for free because a man bought them a drink.
Oh gosh. And she's on some hoe stuff. And this chick is still clueless at 25. I mean, she's just taking the next step away from hookup culture, and that is improve the cost of hooking up. You haven't stepped away from hookup culture. You just improved the price of it. The fact that you respect hoes more than women who sleep with men based on other criteria, and that is whatever value she's seen in him over that drink, really says something about you.
I think I've seen someone else say that too on YouTube before. I think it was Mina. Mina, the universe guru, I will say
Oh
her
crap.
video, I'm gonna link it down below. It's like it's a lot longer than this is gonna be. But that video, I kid you not, I think I cried. Like I had to pause it and like I cried watching it because everything she said in that video, she's older, she's married. She has like a lot more wisdom than I do when it comes to this stuff. But that video really, really, really woke me up to this truth and really just changed the way in which I see the world, honestly. Like I'm gonna link it down below so you guys can go check it out. So yeah, I'm just saying this all to say that, like, if you're a woman and you are just trying to figure out your dating life and just try to figure out how to navigate this world as a single woman and how to level up and just be your best self and, all the things. One thing that I really, really, really encourage you to think about and to look at is your relationship with sex and the opposite sex. If you've been in a situation, this is the thing. Like, I'm speaking from a place of like complete understanding because I've been in a position before where it's just like I'm being physical with somebody and we talk, but like I don't know if he's talking to other people. I don't know if he's going to take me on a date. I don't know if he's going to even text me back that day. Like I know what it's like to be in that position. If you're finding
Increasing the cost of the hookup doesn't change that. It it doesn't change that at all.
that sex is like kind of the thing that you kind of go to in order to feel validated or in order to feel less lonely or whatever, like I promise you again, like there's no shame in that. But I just really, really, really encourage you to maybe sit with yourself and ask yourself why that is. Are you maybe scared to be alone? Do you struggle with self-worth? Um, I just really encourage you to kind of sit with yourself and just remember that you're worthy of so much. So you don't like whenever you want, you can always just make the choice to say, you know what, my standards are higher now. Like I actually want someone to
You're just increasing the price of sex. That's my standards are higher now. Is them, and I always wondered that. Like I've been wondering that for a while. It still don't make sense, but I see why it makes sense to them. For women when they're younger to just sleep with a bunch of guys, and then when they get older and have a couple of kids, say, "Oh no, I now realize my worth, and it is worth more than when I was younger, hotter, sexier, childless." Younger, hotter, sexier, childless. It's like, really? She's increasing the price on herself right now. I'm talking about the woman on the screen, even though she has decreased in value. She hasn't spoken any way on how she's increasing her value to men.
like properly court me. I want someone to actually like go the extra mile and romance me and do these things before I even
That's your
consider
currency.
being intimate with them. You should feel emotionally safe with somebody when you're being intimate with them. You shouldn't feel like weird afterwards. You shouldn't feel like empty or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I'm not
Okay. When she says that she wants to be wined and dined, um, she was giving it up for drinks before, but now she just wants more wine and more dine. It's the same thing as before. It's the same thing that she was doing before. She was like, "Oh no, we shouldn't do it over drinks, but I do want to be wined and dined." So what? You're just adding food to it now? I mean, ah, this video is long.
I'm not here to preach anything to anybody. Live your life how you want to live it, but I just really really encourage you just to remember your worth and just to remember that you can have whatever it is that you want, but it does start with you making the decisions to raise your
No, you can't. Nobody can have anything that they want unless you're an spoiled, entitled millennial. for you to think that way.
Standards, and it does start with you learning how to say no and learning how to have more boundaries with yourself and protect your own heart, protect your own body from just anybody accessing it. You're worth that, right? You're worth setting those boundaries. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful, you guys. I know this is very all over the place, so I apologize, but I hope that this kind of resonated in some way. I've been celibate now for like over a year, and
So you come to this conclusion a while ago, and the only thing you did was up your price just to find out that nobody's paying that price. Nobody is paying your improved price. And as a result, you wasted your last year of your early 20s. See, a person really only has 520 weekends in their 20s. 52 of them you wasted. You're no closer to your goal. And that's because, once again, you haven't increased your value. You just changed the price. You haven't even changed the product, that because you're not offering hookups anymore. You're offering relationships. So that's you haven't come to that realization. What you did was you just raised the price for hookups. You're not offering relationships, because if you did, you have to say, okay, this is what I offer a man in a relationship. And then this is what I want from a man in a relationship. You haven't had that conversation with yourself in a year. It's sad.
I never, ever, ever, ever thought that I would be this person. I never thought that I'd be saying this. But I can tell you, like, honestly, it like, I feel fine. Like, I literally feel fine. I feel like I'm happy. I love being by myself. I feel like, I don't know, like, I thought it was a bigger deal until I like started just like saying like, oh, and it's not that like I even like, oh, like I need someone to do all these things before I sleep with them. I literally just feel like I'm
That's
just
exactly
comfortable
what
with
you said.
myself, and I've connected with people. Yes, I've been on dates and stuff, but it's just like I don't feel like I'm just in this rush to just sleep with someone. I don't need to be just in this rush. And it feels really, really, really good. So yeah.
And that's another thing with raising the currency the way she did, because there's no guarantee for the guy. I mean, she raised the cost for hookup, which means that she requires more whining and more dining. He can give her more, and she could just say, huh, yeah, no. That's the problem with anything.
Yeah, I hope this was helpful in some way, you guys. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys have any questions, or if you agree with what I'm saying, if you disagree. Also, let me know if there's anything else that you guys want me to touch on that I talked about in today's video. And yeah, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having an amazing week, and I will see you guys in the next one.
So, the main problem with hookup culture is that both men and women, there's no transition out of it. There's no comfortable way to transition out of it. Nobody ever taught anyone how to transition, how and when to transition out of hookup culture. Because men, if you are a player or you were a player or something like that, you don't just say, something, we ain't getting no younger, we might as well do it. Like, I'm talking about married, that song Let's Get Married. Like, there isn't a point or a stage in life where you just say that. It's more like a gradual taper away. And guys go through a prolonged phase of, okay, now I'm going to just determine who is only good for hookups and who is good for more. That's where a lot of guys are, but it's never like a smooth transition. And both men and women are not transitioning out of hookup culture at the same time and stage in their life. And those who comes out of hookup culture have problems finding a mate who's not a participant of that. Believe it or not, she thinks that she's not, but she's still a participant of hookup culture. She just increased the price of her hookups. So much so that in the past year, nobody could afford it. She's going to go through this a while. She's going to go through a lot of stages until she's probably about 33 to 35, and then she'll realize like, okay, this is what I should do. But because she's developed so much bad, it's a sad series of events that I've seen so many young ladies, particularly ones that look like her, go through. Anyway, I'd like to thank all my members for supporting me. Trust me, I have some things I'm working on, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, this is GameChanger 00100. Game over. Peace.